Do you hear that crying? I think
That
that's the
sounds like
sound of right now of Tim and Jay, and maybe Patch at this point in the week. Welcome to the Week 2 podcast, where we have Eliana leading us off with the crying tears of those fantasy teams that perhaps did not have the performance that they wanted in Week 13. And this isn't exactly the time for people to feel sad or upset. What it's the time for is looking forward to the future. Sean, you want to go from here?
it's the this is week 2. We're probably gonna do this hopefully as concise as possible before it's hitting time bomb known as Baby Eliana wants food, and also just in the sense of being able to make this quick and concise. So we're gonna just go through some of the week 2 winners bracket projections, and also a couple of the stuff overview from week 1. Brian, anything you want to start out with before we get going?
No, I think we're good. Let's go to Week 1 results. So on the playoff side, the winners bracket side, we had Jay versus me. We had projected for Jay to win 136 to 115. What actually happened is I destroyed. No, it was 142 112. I'll say actually Jay's team actually put up a couple good performances with some of his guys, but with T.Y. Hilton getting 199 yards, and George, I'm going to kiss you on the mouth Kittle, basically trying to break the tight end receiving record in one half. It helped my path and make it a little bit easier getting across the finish line. All in all, he wasn't, Elliott tried to do his part and Landry did his part, both running and receiving, but, he had some shortfalls with Ertz, who's usually traditionally good, and, Wilson letting him down that, didn't help him get some of those points to keep up, so.
Yeah, there was, so I'm going to circle around and say my 0-2 projection or prediction from last week, where you had two, both games were against the numbers that, the average scores and everything else. A little bit of surprise on how well, how many points and how well your team put up. But yeah, Kittle put up a historic number, and for a tight end position, it's just a crapshoot anyway. But for him to put up that much, it was just a complete positional advantage.
Yeah.
So the other. What's that? You want?
Yeah, with the exception of Galladay putting up a point, everyone else kind of put up solid numbers where I wasn't exactly hurting. Everyone kind of held their part, and Lamar Jackson got enough points in the second half. So it was enough to get by, and with two big numbers to throw in there, it helps get you across the finish line.
Yeah, well, the one thing though, I'm not trying to do a victory lap on Jay's team, but I want to say I told you so on Russell Wilson, but he's performing at such a high production rate, and his touchdown percentage per pass, he's just at such a high. He's outperforming essentially where he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And they're literally a run first offense, and it's just if he was, I think right now he's throwing at like 9% touchdown rate when the average is about 6. He's actually if you put an average quarterback in that offense, and they would be a horrendous team. So riding Russell Wilson into the flames.
Yep.
72 yards passing. That's just...
that was a brutal game all around, so...
So, and then the other matchup, which was the Tim and Chris matchup. Oh,
Tim. Chris put up a fine number, not a great number, but, Tim got no help whatsoever. And I can't even look at, like, someone... even if he goes Wentz over Trubisky, which you could maybe say you can go with. I like Trubisky personally. And last week, this time, I was hoping I bid all my fat to try to get Trubisky, thinking that he'd be the guy. But I mean, McCoy getting injured right away sucked. Gurley, I don't know what the hell the Rams think they're doing avoiding Gurley. I mean, he just, Evans with low numbers, Thomas without a blowout. I mean, he got no help anywhere.
Yeah, and, the Gronk game came. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to hold it off, and Gurley had that one performance when the Rams played the Chiefs earlier this year, and it was quiet on that front for whatever reason. It was just the wrong timing. So and Saquon Barkley is
a beast,
an animal. Yeah, I mean he's going in the top 3.
He's going in the top 2. He might go 1. But if Chris has Barkley getting that many points a week consistently, I mean, the last few weeks alone, just reading off the log, the last 5 weeks, 4 weeks, you have 36, 33, 18, and 31. I mean, that's some numbers. I mean, 30 points a week, that's, what Kamara was putting up last week when he was driving, to the number 1 RB1 overall, type of position. And, if he's getting Julio Jones scoring touchdowns now, which, since when the hell does that happen? All of a sudden Chris's team that might not look like it has bite in other places, all of a sudden looks really good. I mean, Jones has put up at least, 15 points in 8 of the last 9 weeks. So, I mean, that's a big number. And he's put up 20 points 5 times in the past 7. So, I mean, if Barkley's averaging 30 and Jones is putting up 20, 50 points between 2 guys, I mean, that's a strong base for Chris, even if no one else shows up.
Yeah, so it's actually a good transition because that's going to get us to the first, the first matchup with Chris and Ryan, and just kind of doing the same math as last week. Putting into context, obviously Ryan didn't play.
His lineup played. He didn't play. Thank God. Just as a note, both guys that got buys should be very happy that neither of them had to play because, there's a very good chance one or both of them could have been knocked out. So. Yeah,
well, I mean, everyone should have been so fortunate they didn't have me heads up because.
Yeah.
That process over zone. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So. Happy about that. All right, so anyway, we got, Ryan from week 8 to week 14 is averaging over that 7-week span 134 points to his 139-point total, or the 139-point average for the year, which I was a little surprised, even though, optics-wise, you think of all the injuries he had with Connor and then Hunt, obviously. Chris on the other side, adding in obviously week 14, his average is at 123.3 for the 7 weeks and 127 still for the annual. So a couple things I took note of when it came to matchups. I'm gonna try to look as objectively as possible because subjectively I'm like, all right, Ryan really with all the injuries at running back and suspension, it's really hard to have like a optimistic look. Obviously Hunt, Connor, Chubb, White, and handcuffing Ware pre-Hunt suspension to now running out White and Chubb and having I have to pull up his roster.
Yeah, I mean
he's playing in the flex.
Godwin right now. I mean, he has Connor, Hunt, and Spencer Ware sitting on his bench because he can't play them. And, he can choose between Godwin or Humphreys right now in the flex, being forced to play James White and Nick Chubb, in the running back positions, which Chubb's been great, but, doesn't necessarily have the history. And James White, I don't know what the hell's happening with James White, so.
Yeah, he's getting phased out of the offense, or he's just not getting as many touches. Although, the game could lend itself to him getting work against the Steelers, but a couple of the guys that I really focused on for him. The first one was with Mahomes versus the Chargers, which it may sound like that's just stupid. Like obviously he's going to be in and whatever else. But this with how Ryan's roster construction is, and within the realm of possibility, Mahomes has it to put up a 40-point performance. Anything short of a 40-point performance it may be a total killer to Ryan's team, because his high average total for the entire year came off the back of Mahomes, and because he has really shaky running back depth, and is going to be, Ryan figures it out and usually puts up a really strong lineup anyway. He definitely is getting contributions from Mahomes, and there's not really much behind that.
Yeah, if you look at the teams that Mahomes has gone against that have had really strong pass defenses, Denver being one, he got 26. Jacksonville, he got 17. Arizona, which I know you think the team sucks, but their pass defense is actually in the top 10 in the league in points against the quarterback. He got 21, and then last week against Baltimore, he got 26. So I mean, it's not like Mahomes is going to get shut out. I don't think, and I don't anticipate him getting 15 points. But I think his ceiling, especially against a really strong Chargers defense, might be capped out around that 30-point mark. When where in a lot of other weeks, Ryan might have relied on Mahomes to push him over the edge and get that 35, 40, 50-point match, total. Maybe this is not the week where he can have that, ability to lean on him.
Yeah. Do you agree, Eliana? So it's good stuff that we're on that. But from a draft perspective, Mahomes is definitely MVP of a fantasy league. He was Ryan's best pick, and I think Ryan's going to have a real challenge figuring out whether to keep Mahomes as a 7th-round keeper next year, which is unbelievable value. It may be worth it over any of the positional players he has, because he may be that guy who is the Aaron Rodgers in the 7th round, and it may be just too hard to pass, or someone in the league is going to absolutely go after the possibility of having that late round quarterback, which is interesting to see. So
nope, definitely. And then Chris's matchups. I mean, he actually has some pretty, I don't want to say decent matchups, but he has some, some matchups that I actually think could play. Cam against New Orleans. I mean, New Orleans is great against the run, not as great against the pass. There's a possibility for a shootout there. Barkley against Tennessee is a good matchup. Brandon Cooks against Philly. That's a really, really strong matchup against the Eagles' horrible cornerbacks. And then Julio Jones. I mean, he might go against Patrick Peterson, who's been shutting down everyone. But you can't imagine that the Cardinals are going to be blowing them out. So.
Yeah, well, you jumped over to Chris's side, so I'll continue with Chris's. I had 2 others for Ryan.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, don't worry. I mean, Cooks. I had Cooks versus Philly. I'll read the blurb that I had for Woods for Ryan, because Woods versus Philly, Cooks versus Philly, obviously. The two are. It's going to be one of those things where one is going to affect the other. Everything is leaning toward a great performance for the wide receiver, and either wide receiver in the Rams offense, because it's all second and third string guys who are playing for the Eagles. And Cooks could blow up, or Woods, whichever, or maybe both. They can also just neutralize.
Yeah, I have a feeling that both of them are going to eat, and at that point, neither of them actually get the advantage.
I had Jones and Coleman for the Arizona game because the game script, but you're not. Okay, Ito Smith has more red zone carries.
I think she's saying that she should be playing Jeff Wilson Jr. instead of Tevin Coleman.
What about Saquon? Saquon Barkley doing? Okay, yeah. Well, Saquon Barkley's gonna go.
Eliana's on board with Saquon. Okay.
So Tennessee has a great running offense or running defense, but it doesn't matter. I'm there. He's going to be the center, the centerpiece of that, and So it's more or less again how many targets out of the backfield is Saquon going to get, and is he going to get in the end zone? Is he?
Yeah, I think
One?
it's
One touchdown? No. Okay. Well, maybe maybe the two. No. Oh, okay. Yeah. Who's gonna have more touchdowns? Beckham, who's hurt, or Eli? Yeah, Odell.
Okay.
You know.
So I think it's safe to assume, Chris, don't bench Saquon just because Eliana might not feel the same way. But
Yeah, and then for the other matchup with for Ryan that I had was Njoku versus Denver. Now Njoku, I'm not trying to lean a bias because I drafted him, but the Denver Broncos are. I know Chris Harris is hurt. He sounded like that when he hurt his tibia, and then and their corners are gone, and the Broncos have given up the most yardage in the entire league to the tight end. So Njoku has to, he has to produce. Double digits. Maybe he can go off for Ryan's team.
But you have to assume. You have to assume that some of those things are going to happen. So let's shift over to the other matchup, which is between me and John. And John, I will do my best to not be completely biased, but sure.
Yeah.
How about this? I'll speak to some of the things I think. John, I'm very happy to be playing you this week. Not because I think I'm going to beat you, just because you have some players that are just your workhorses that have some pretty tough matchups. McCaffrey against the Saints is the number one rushing defense in the league. Sean, you can throw it on mute too for the time being if that helps. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean she's listening. She's just hanging out. Well,
McCaffrey against the Saints is the worst matchup he could face. But I think he'll still do well.
Yeah, I think also when it comes to with John's side, McCaffrey, McCaffrey's gonna get his touches similar like Barkley. It's gonna be a shootout. Cam has shoulder problems. McCaffrey can maybe get touchdowns. Yeah. Jack of all trades. Yeah. Maybe get some real nice goal line work. How many touchdowns? Can you get 2? Is Uncle Brian gonna be crying?
0.
Okay. So, one of the matchups I highlighted with John was Kelsey versus Chargers. From a historic standpoint, the Chargers have really, really done a nice job against Kelsey historically, and it's just one of those things where it may not be a good matchup for John to deal, and he's going to need other areas. Adrian Peterson against Jacksonville is going to be tough with Josh Johnson, Colin Kaepernick, whomever else in there, and he can definitely get games scripted out. Jeffrey now has Nick Foles throwing passes.
Yeah. And Nick Foles dealing with a Rams rush. I mean, what?
Antonio Brown's a wide receiver too on his own team. Yeah. What's up with that? I know, craziness.
No.
So I don't know who's gonna get the wide receiver 1 coverage in New England, whether
it's gonna be Brown, but. The one player actually I think surprisingly, and I think may actually finally pay off for John is Dalvin Cook this week. Cook actually has a real plus matchup against the Dolphins defense, who gives up top 5 points to the running back position. And just to speak to your other point, the Kelsey over his past 4 games for the Chargers has total in 4 games has 9 catches for 61 yards. So, that's averaging 2 catches, 15 yards a game, and no touchdowns over those 4 games. So, once again, it may not speak to Kelsey's floor, but that type of defense usually speaks to his ceiling. So, and with Hill playing and some of the other options there, Kelsey still if Hill wasn't playing, I think maybe Kelsey would get more looks. But the Chargers still have the Chiefs still have all their receivers out there, and the Chargers can still keep their defense to where they are. So.
Yeah, that's true, and Kelsey could. Yeah.
You can't bench him. I mean, you're not going to go with the random guys, but yeah.
Yeah, no, you gotta roll Kelsey. So the other side is to yours. Dak Prescott, Uncle Brian doing. Why? They desperate. Dak Prescott. 400 yards from garbage time. He was so bad the first 3 quarters. What's Uncle Ryan thinking?
Oh.
Seriously, Ryan, you need to start Lamar Jackson because he's got the Konami code, or maybe even Josh Allen, because running is a good baseline. Dak Prescott is not in a good matchup against the Colts, and statistically speaking, the Colts have actually been pretty good as of late. So I don't like that matchup.
But the Colts have been good against wide receivers, but they've been horrible against running backs out of the backfield. I saw Ezekiel Elliott with 12 catches last week, and that might be repeatable. Also, Dak Prescott over the past 5 weeks has been the QB4 in PPR formats. So let's keep that in mind.
Sorry, I'm the only reason why I'm talking like that is because I got the baby and she's actually smiling at that analysis. She's also like, Daddy, when can I play this game?
Had to give up Lamar just because Flacco's actually sitting there in the background. You don't know if Harbaugh is going to see his season on the line. Lamar Jackson with 2 early interceptions and say, you know what, I got to pull the plug and put it in the Super Bowl. Elite quarterback. So.
Right. I do like the Keenan Allen matchup because Allen is going to be part of a very high-scoring game. Chiefs defense is just going to be part of just a shootout along. The Chargers will be chasing the scoreboard. Oh, all right, I know it's showtime. It's feeding time. And then Jones is a tough matchup. Maybe Elijah McGuire in because he is currently the starter.
Yeah. Can't put in Elijah McGuire over Aaron Jones. I'm sorry, not against the Houston defense either. But he was a good block. So.
You're doing it.
And I haven't decided yet. I can only still speak to it, but Deshaun Hamilton might be making a play into my lineup this week. So,
I like that.
That isn't a reason to cry, but that could be a reason. 9 targets the past 2 weeks. No trust in my other receivers.
Okay.
Sean, why can't you have your child stop crying? Why does she hate my team so much?
I don't know. Maybe she's tilting. It's only Thursday. Okay.
All right.
Uncle Brian is going to be potentially moving on or get booted out. Okay.
So let's go. Let's do predictions before we keep going. So for Ryan and Chris, what do you have?
So I want to be as optimistic and objective as possible. I need to look. I'll give you a sec because I didn't. I got maybe rejecting food and rejecting being down. So what are we projections and then?
So I'll go first. I have Chris beating Ryan right now. Oh God, Sean, what are you doing to your child?
I think based on that, I think Uncle Ryan may take it down. Yeah. You may need to pause this there, Bri, or
just mute your phone. Just mute your phone.
Okay.
You gotta hit that mute button.
Oh, jeez. Gentlemen, if this isn't Planned Parenting, then I don't know what is.
Sean, just hit the mute button and I'll talk. It's fine.
Yeah, my phone's in my pocket, so.
Yeah, you can still hear it. It doesn't matter. So, I'll give mine and give Sean a chance to get his people together. And I'll talk Succo playoffs in the meantime, too, to salvage all you guys. Sean has Ryan beating Chris 125-119. And he has John beating me 127-120. Sean was 0-2 last time. I think he's going to go 0-2 this week, too. I actually have Chris beating Ryan by a pretty sizable margin, 132-111. I think Ryan's got some. The injury bug hit him at the absolute worst time, and I think Chris has some players that can go off. And literally, John Randolph literally just texted me right now and just I will post that on the Facebook feed. It says, pretty scared, to be honest, in the text at this moment. And you should be scared, John, because I have myself beating you 128 to 118. Once again, just injuries, bad matchup versus my team. And sorry, but I have you at a loss. But Sean has you for winning 127 120. So overall, playoffs, we'll see what happens, and then finals next week. For the Succo playoff side, a little bit different than what we thought, but we had Sean with 164, Charlie with 127, Mike 109, Joe 104, Rob 89, and Patch 67. So just as surprising as Sean's 164 is Patch's 67, but you have a few more weeks to work through it. So I mean, when it comes down to it, we'll see what happens after this week and see, if anyone's able to claw up. I mean, I think Rob can definitely get back in there. Patch might be a little bit too far, but, if Mike's not putting up, Derrick Henry's not putting up 54 points, and he even puts up 20, Mike's sitting there in fifth place. So, there's no guarantee that, Mike can keep up that even low 109 number. So, looking at going into this week, I have to anticipate that, Charlie's team will step up again. Roethlisberger at home has been a number. Kamara against Carolina's defense hasn't been that, it should be an easy matchup for him. And Joe Mixon against Oakland's rushing defense, which has been horrible. He has some good opportunities for some high numbers. Talking about Sean's team, Juju against New England has all the chances for possibilities for good points there, but he has a lot of ownership in that game. Edelman, Smith-Schuster, Samuels, Michelle. If that game ends up becoming a low-scoring matchup for some reason, he might just put himself in the situation where he can get 60 or 70 points for the week. So tough situation there. For Mike, I mentioned he has Breeze and Henry. Right now he has Justin Jackson in the slot. As long as Melvin Gordon doesn't play, that should be a great opportunity for him to get some points. But otherwise, his team is his team. He actually also has Damian Williams. Mike being the waiver wire hound might have actually blocked some running backs from the playoff teams with those two matchups. So see how that ends up working out for him. Rob has some plus matchups with Fournette against Washington. Andrew Luck against Dallas' defense should be fairly good. And Larry Fitzgerald against Atlanta, if the Cardinals even can decide to throw the ball forward, he should be fine. And then finally, for the last one, you have Patch, where tough matchup for Rodgers against the Bears. Hopefully, you can do something. Doug Martin against Cincinnati also should be a plus matchup. Bengals have been third worst in the league in running this year, and against points against for the running back position. So Martin, who's actually hasn't been terrible over the past few weeks, despite sharing some carries with Richard and for Oakland, he should have enough there. But otherwise, he's got some players there that, once again, dealing with some tough situations with, Golden Tate having, Nick Foles throwing the ball and Courtland Sutton trying to take on the wide receiver one spot for the Broncos. So, not sure where that goes. Finally, you have Joe's team. You have Phil Rivers, Kansas City. You have to figure, especially if they don't have Melvin Gordon or Austin Eckler, and he might be throwing the ball 50 times. That's that has a possibility for a big point total for him. Hopefully Beckham will be back for him against Tennessee, so that can be some numbers. But he has hopefully Matt Breida back, and Chris Carson against the Niners should be a good situation for them to rack up some yards. Sean, is there anything that you missed during you want to add during that last portion?
It sounded good. I don't even, I'll be honest, I don't even know my predictions for the championship. I thought you said it for me that I had Ryan, then Chris. And then, I'll be honest, I don't even know where to go with that. So sorry, guys, 'cause, I'm feeling.
Well, I'm just gonna be just going to give John Randolph his call out. He says he's been light on the trigger this week with the free agency because he's been pretty scared. Right now he says he's been pooping his pants, but he needs a big showing from the Kansas City D. And he says this just in. As I told him, we're making the prediction. As he texted me live during this game, he says this just in. The number 1 seed admits he has jitters pre-game this Thursday evening, and he says if it's anything like last week, I'm fucked. But may the best man win. I think it'll be close.
Yeah. So as we speak right now, the prediction was look. So I had honestly, I like. It's more of an indictment that I don't matchups as much. I can see actually you make the finals. I don't know what the final. I think it's going to be a score somewhere in 120, somewhere in the 110s or in the teens. But on the other end, we have. We have the Ryan and Chris matchup. Not bad, right? Yeah. Just life wasn't like that. We'll take it to the bottom just to get you going. That's fine. We got the Chris and Ryan matchup. I can see a Ryan moving to the versus Chris. Matchups again. I think we'll have a real tell on this matchup is going to go Friday morning, because if Mahomes puts up, I'll make a pick. If Mahomes puts up under 30, and I think we'll win. And if Mahomes puts up over 40, Ryan should win. Obviously, it's a 10-point swing, but
I think it's gonna be that close too. Yeah, I can see that their game being a lot closer. With some of Ryan's ceiling hurting him, and Chris maybe getting some big matchups. I think Chris actually has plus matchups, and Ryan has some some negative matchups that could help you the difference. So.
On to the stuff.
Yeah, I just did, Sean. I don't know if you were listening. I did a run through of all the prior week and some of the matchups during the week. I don't know if you want to have you have anything specifically you want to speak to.
Yeah, I heard it. I heard the heavy script of Steelers versus Patriots, which it could lead to miss, or it could lead to blankness. Charlie's got Hopkins versus the Jets, which is a nice match. Mixon versus the Raiders, which is a really nice matchup. Same with Cook against the Bengals. I'm trying to look at the other matchups just to get. The big thing again, Patch probably didn't want to see 67 spot, and the realization that we have to push away from the top scorer, it's going to be too much of a hole to be able to turn around to make it into 6 balls. Well, guys, Ash, Bob, and Joe, and even Mike for that matter. I think we'll see the he'll kind of play itself out over the week and going into week 16. It's pretty much to be determined that there'll be 3 guys I think that won't be in the running for Tucko, and 2 guys that will be in the running, or it'll just be cut. There's 2 guys, going for the second and third lot of ball, and then the one Tucko who they have a real strong game.
And just to confirm, it's after 3 weeks, right? Is anyone eliminated after this week? Is it all 3 weeks combined?
So yeah, to kind of clarify, I've had guys ask me, so compiling the pool for weeks 14, 15, 16. Every week while every fantasy playoff, you guys are playing in a 3-week off, and at the end of the grand total of the scores after 14, 15, 16 will determine the most will have 6 balls, and they'll have a high probability for number 1. The lowest will have 1 be the Tucko and sending based off of amount of points. I know for the suggestion, which I actually the idea idea of awarding who would essentially be the second eighth, or maybe to some sort of compensation for being, being having the best in the Succo, getting awarded maybe the 10th to 15th, just something to separate, or make, because it would be Charlie.
Well, Rob would have been the 7, so he would have gotten more than you and Charlie, and it just helps award the regular season a little bit more than what it is. So
yeah, if hypothetically you did it where it was 15 points for Charlie and Rob, but not even just do it as the 7th and 8th seed, get the same amount of points. If it were 15, Charlie would be at 142. Rob would be at 101. So I mean, he would be a little closer to Joe. It would make a little bit more of a competitive angle, I guess, to continue and fall short of the playoffs. Then you get rewarded, and if you're a tanker, to be real cognizant that you're also going to be almost with one hand behind your back to start off the cycle, which could deter a little more of tanking, or it could do. It's an idea. I think this format for Succo is a little stronger. I mean, if for the case of the old format, I think I would have been out now, along with probably Mike, Joe, and Pat could have continued on, or no, it would have been the bottom two would have been Patch versus, or Patch and Mike wouldn't have been playing, and it would have been me versus Rob. Rob would have been in the next round, and Charlie would have been out. It would have been Joe. Joe would have been playing Patch, and Rob would have been playing Mike. So I mean, I think this is a better format. It makes for a little more competitiveness. And hey guys, in the Succo, the little text message I sent, don't be afraid, don't be bashful, and talk smack in that thing, because nothing like shouldering the misery all together. Make fun of Mike's team that only scored 40 points without Derrick Henry. So the other guys, looking at the matchup, Mike actually, speaking of him, has a lot of free agent pickups that would keep workable as players on championship teams. He's been real active, and he scooped up Williams, and he has Dixon. You got Justin Jackson. It's actually a lot more respectable of a lineup compared to what he put out last week. Wide receiver 2 is a little more boom bust with Samuel, but it's he's got a nice team that he can move forward. I didn't see whether or not OBJ for Joe is going to be inactive. I haven't really been following up on there, but Joe needs jumping from one team to another, but Joe needs a strong performance from Beckham if he is playing, and Breida if he's in, and just again trying to create distance between Rob and Patch. Charlie's got a powerhouse, obviously, and he's a 60-point difference between the low guys. So it'd be a real surprise. I mean, I'd be surprised if Charlie is a sub. I'm not going to say anything about first and about but it's just the differences in the guys are definitely there. So I think you did a good job of analyzing all the games before. So prediction-wise, I see maybe a little bit of leveling out. You see, Rob maybe making a move past Mike and Joe, as long as his guys are healthy. Maybe passing Mike, and Mike drops down back, back to.
I can't imagine Mike doesn't drop back down to earth. And I'm sorry, it's not to rag on his team. It's just you said it. He had 40 points if it wasn't for Derrick Henry. So even if Henry gets 10, he's at 50 points. Even if he got 20, which would have been more than Henry got any time of the year, he's at 60. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. What happened there.
Yeah, Henry had 55 points.
Yeah.
Which is with the amount of points, more the amount that he had from 1 through 9, and he didn't have anything above 70 yards rushing in any game before that. So an unbelievable outlier. It may get him more in because they feel like they can give him touches. But Mike Baker, although he's got the spring running back, which is good for this week, but he's going to be fishing weak prospects. I don't know if there's anything to add. I didn't really much beyond that.
No, I think we're good. I think let's put an end to it so people can maybe listen to it before the Thursday night games tonight. So
Really quickly, Chris is going to be in only if Mahomes scores less than 30. Ryan, if Mahomes scores more than 3, Ryan is be taking it down. So even though that's not a bold take, I'm going to hover to it. I think it's a really close matchup. And I had me beating Sean.
You jumped to my side? You have me beating John?
Yeah, I thought you had the matchup that you could beat John.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought that's what I said. I mean,
I thought you had John beating me. Okay, cool. Let's go. Take John to town. Bring down the number 1 seed. He's a paper tiger.
I thought just the matchup and how much his team with Peterson and Jeffrey, a lot, and Kelsey, with bad matches. There's just a lot working against. And then in Jay, not saying that matchups don't matter, but Tim Lotto, he would have been drawing for 1 through 7. So he actually de facto has the number 7 seed.
Congrats, Jay, on your 8 seed.
Yeah, so with that in mind, good luck. I set your lineup up, though, people, because you do need to continue tallying points.
All right, good luck.
All right, have a good one, guys. Oh, well, Brian.
Yep. Still recording.
Are you still there?
Yeah, still recording.
One other thing, guys. Last thing, and just quick thing. Jerry, the honorary legendary Jerry is now a proud father. So DJ, I don't know what call him. DJC Daniel Joseph Clark has come into the fold, which he may be playing fantasy football in the next 18 years.
Yep.
Congratulations, Jerry.
And out of the womb is already a better fantasy owner.
All right. So.
All right. Thanks,
All right.
everyone.
Well, have a good one, guys.